It's the 6th round of the Formula 1 season and we're here for the Mexican Grand Prix, and tension is beginning to build over at Jaguar, specifically with their big brand deal with Monster. Monster Energy have called out Sam and have questioned his loyalty to their brands. Now, Sam has currently got a brand deal with Monster, which allowed Monster to then put in an investment into Jaguar as a big main team sponsor behind Panasonic, who are the title sponsors of the team. Sam obviously managed to get this deal forward and it helped bring investment to Jaguar. But where things get a little bit mixed up is Tom, of course, was not allowed to be a part of the team if Monster were to bring the extra investment, which Jaguar took the approach of making that happen. Now, Charles Leclerc at the start of the season has officially tried to call out both Monster and Vodafone and all of the big brands for ruining drivers' careers, in which both of the two brands have hit back, stating that this is completely false and that Leclerc just needs to continue with his driving. Now, throughout all of this time period, Leclerc has been trying to rally up other drivers that have been affected by this, such as Tom, who was removed from Jaguar because of the Monster brand deal, and of course he hasn't stated anything. But someone that also hasn't said anything is Sam. He's remained quiet on the matter, and this is now frustrating Monster as more pressure is coming onto them and Sam is refusing to back them up. So Monster have called him out and are questioning whether he's actually loyal to the brand or if he's staying quiet because he doesn't want to disagree with what Monster have to say. Sam, as we have said, has been remaining quiet after Leclerc called out all of the big brands, and in the Thursday press conference, when asked about it, Sam once again continued to stay quiet on those questions when he was asked about them. But a man that was also at that press conference was Tom, and he went ahead and hit out for the first time since this entire brand deal piece went into play against the two big companies. Tom has been someone that has not really hit out at any of the companies. He himself has initially played the game of wanting to be quiet onto the matter and letting get on with it. But with more and more questions being asked and with Monster trying to pile more stress and pressure on, he has finally snapped and has hit out at Monster. This is what he had to say. He said Sam is a world champion and his talking is done on the track, not off of the track. So the best bet is to just leave him alone, let him do it, and stop getting in Sam's way. It's the first time that Tom has said anything critical about Monster, and it's going to be interesting to see now whether this rally against the big brands is actually going to take shape now that Tom has finally hit out. Taking a look at the race news then, heading into the Mexican Grand Prix, it was Ferrari for the first time this season that set the pace in FP2, with Tom going fastest of all, with Ferrari slowly bringing in more and more updates to their car. Now, it's a close grid though, as all cars were separated by only 1.7 seconds by the end of FP3, showcasing that the grid is extremely tight. Now, Jaguar feel that they're actually missing some pace compared to Audi and McLaren. This season, the top three teams have been notified as Jaguar, Audi and McLaren. And Jaguar just feel like they're just losing out in terms of performance over their two rivals. Red Bull are still suffering with power issues thanks to the BMW engine just not being strong enough. We already know that the BMW engine is the weakest on the grid, and around Mexico, it's really not helping them. And McLaren are confident that they've got the race pace to win the Mexican Grand Prix despite the recent resurge in Ferrari's performance, especially in the hands of Tom. McLaren feel that in a one-lap pace, they might struggle to beat the pace of Tom, but in race trim, they think that they've got the best car on the grid to go ahead and win the Mexican Grand Prix. But let's find out if they can make it 3 race wins in a row. Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Foxydude here, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the F1 Journey for you guys today here on the channel. We are here for the Mexican Grand Prix. If you end up enjoying today's video, feel free to drop it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well. And let's get cracking with today's episode then. So as you can see, we're going on a track now for some qualifying, and I'm really looking forward to racing here around Mexico. I love this circuit with these cars that I've got, these really fast and lightweight cars, because literally a lot of the corners are just flat out and it's just fun. So onto the first lap here. Didn't actually go too well. Going towards the stadium section, I actually made a mistake. I went purple in the middle sector, but I made a big mistake there, and unfortunately it just left the final sector really scruffy. We're coming towards the start-finish line now. I was checking the tyres to see if there's any tyre temperature issues. It wasn't too bad. Unfortunately though, it's only P3. Drivers are going to improve though and drop us down even further, and that drops us down into P13. But here we go, it is time for a lap here of the Mexican Grand Prix circuit. So let's get straight into it. We're going to have the DRS then as we now fly down in towards the first corner. Super long straight here, focusing pretty much on the braking zone. So as you can see here, braking around about the 75-meter board as we now go through in towards turns 1, 2, and 3. Wasn't actually the best run compared to my previous lap. You can see that we lost about 3/100ths of a second there, which is not the greatest, but as we now go through in towards the next section of the circuit, we'll try and gain that time back, and we do so ever so slightly, but we then lose a bit more time. We'll gain it back on exit though, so we're sort of pretty much very much level with our previous best lap from qualifying, but in this section of the circuit, we're now about a tenth and a bit down, but we know that we've got time to find as we go through towards this middle sector. We're already gaining that back just flat out through every single corner, putting no stress on the car whatsoever. This corner is where we lost all of our time before. Now we've gone purple in the middle sector. This time around, though, we get it absolutely spot on, and that's found all of the time lost. We've missed the apex, though, of that next corner, but it's all right as we now go through towards the last corner here. This time going a bit wider, taking a bit more towards the start-finish line, and for the first time in Season 7, it's pole position. It's round number 6 of the Formula 1 season, and we are here for the Mexican Grand Prix for season number 7 of the F1 Journey. This is the 96th F1 Journey Grand Prix. Just 4 more events until we hit F1 Journey 100. It is a dry day here at the Autodrome Hermano Rodriguez, and it is a 21 degrees Celsius air temperature, track temperature, normally much warmer than that. It's quite a short circuit actually. It's only 2.6 miles, but there are plenty of places to get overtaking done. It's a lot harder than it used to be thanks to the new stadium section coming into place, but we'll be able to try and get the best of the long pitch straight. Soft, medium, and the hard compound tyres. Now we could see some strategy changes here or there at this circuit, as it's normally a 2-stop race, but you can eke it out into a 1-stop. So it's going to be about what strategy you fancy doing as all the jets fly across the screen there. Let's have a look at the grid though for the Mexican Grand Prix and see where everybody lines up then. Looking at the starting grid then, it is obviously ourselves on pole position with my cousin Reese alongside me on the front row of the grid for McLaren. Sam qualifies in P3. Sebastian Vettel is P4 for Mercedes-Benz, a great qualifying session for him. Charles Leclerc lines up in P5, Daniel Ricciardo is in P6 for the second McLaren car. George Russell is in 7th, Bottas, a great qualifying session there in 8th place. Down in P9 is Lewis Hamilton with my teammate Carlos Sainz getting himself into the top 10. Then it is Pierre Gasly in P11 ahead of Nick de Vries in P12, some great qualifying sessions from those two drivers. Max Verstappen is 13th ahead of Sergio Perez, who is in 14th place on the grid for his home Grand Prix. Nico Hülkenberg qualifies in P15 ahead of Esteban Ocon, who is in 16th place with Noah James in P17 alongside his US teammate Mason Woods in P18. They just drive for different teams. Pascal Wehrlein is P19 and Lando Norris, with some sort of issue in qualifying, is darting from the back of the grid. Alright, so as you can see, we are on the grid here now for the start of the Mexican Grand Prix. We're going to be doing a 2-stop strategy, so it's going to be soft, soft, and then the medium compound tyres to end off the Grand Prix. But as you can see, we're on the grid now, ready. We have got 5 red lights, and it's lights out, and away we go for the start of the Mexican Grand Prix. It's not been the greatest getaway from us, though. It's actually been a better start from Reese in the McLaren alongside us, as now we go down towards turn 1. A long drag here. We've got Sam on the outside. We've got Reese on the inside now as we go in towards the first corner. Braking late, going around the outside. We've been hit by Reese into the first corner. Front wing is damaged and we're going backwards now in this Grand Prix. The safety car has come out and we have taken significant damage early on in this Mexican Grand Prix. It looked as if Reese then just went straight into the side of us, but we're going to have a look now and find out what just caused that. So as the lights go out here, it's a dramatic start to this Mexican Grand Prix. It was initially not the greatest getaway from myself, but we eventually then just got a little bit of the phase at the start, better than Reese, but eventually Reese and Sam comes back at us now as we go in towards, oh, there it is. So it's one of the Audi cars then that got involved, and myself, Reese, and Sam have all been taken out on the first lap of the Mexican Grand Prix, and the culprit to all of this was Charles Leclerc. He was the man that caused this crash. So heading into the first corner, Charles tries to make it 4 wide and just turns in on Reese there. He then goes and hits myself. Reese takes damage, I take damage. Leclerc goes and hits Sam. This is on board with Sam, who's on the outside here now of turn 1. You can see here that he just unfortunately is a complete passenger and all of that and gets a whack on the side then from Charles Leclerc. This is on board with Reese. So Reese was actually taking a weird line into turn 1. He was going to cut turn 1, as you can see there, but he couldn't because Leclerc was coming through and just wiped him out there. And what Reese would have done, his AI, he would have sort of cut turn 1 a little bit and just lost a bit of time. But Leclerc then just turned in on Reese, and it just caused a massive domino effect. So the safety, it wasn't actually a full safety car like I thought it was. It's only a virtual safety car, which means that we're going to have to pit, change our front wing, and just like at the Canadian Grand Prix actually, last race, in the previous race, we're going to have to fight back again, and we're not going to have a safety car to really bail us out unless one comes in the next couple of laps. But at the time being, we're going to have to just fight through. Not only myself, but Reese, Sam and Leclerc are all going to have to now fight away through the field unless Charles Leclerc can get away with no damage. I'm not really sure what the damage was for Charles Leclerc, but I know for certain that myself, Reese and Sam have all pitted for a brand new set of tyres. I believe Reese and Sam have gone to a set of the soft tyres. I've decided to convert to a set of the medium compound tyres and pretty much change my strategy altogether. I don't know how I'm going to run this race anymore, but we'll see. Back at the front though, Sebastian Vettel was the man that took advantage of all the chaos to lead the Mexican Grand Prix, but for no longer. George Russell now tries to go around the outside of turn 1. That'll flick to turns 2 and then turn 3, but Vettel hangs on in there in his Mercedes, but Russell now with the DRS will get the better straight line speed. Ricardo now in the McLaren, the man on form so far. Back-to-back race wins for Ricardo. Tries to have a look at Vettel and Russell. Russell goes through into the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix. Ricardo now trying to fight off Sebastian Vettel as they go on through. Let's see if Ricardo can try and make his way through as they go darting through this tight and twisty part of the circuit, and it's Ricardo that comes out on top. But Vettel, who was in the lead of this Mexican Grand Prix, going backwards now all of a sudden here, because here comes Valtteri Bottas in the Renault, who's up to 4th place now in this Grand Prix. He might be fighting to try and snatch a podium here as it stands at the moment, as Bottas now has got the DRS here on Vettel as he goes now down towards the outside of the stadium section. You never normally see an overtake around here. Now towards the inside line here. The fans will be absolutely loving the fact there's an overtake going on at the Mexican Grand Prix circuit in one of the stupidest parts of the track itself. But Bottas and Vettel will stay side by side, but Bottas gets in front and he now is into 3rd place. Vettel drops to 4th. An awful lap for Vettel, but he'll come back though with some DRS here. Sebastian now will have the DRS. Bottas won't have it. He'll have to defend the inside line. Vettel will try and take the outside line, reclaim 3rd place. This is a great scrap now as Vettel goes towards the outside of T1, but it's not going to work out on that occasion. Bottas is ahead. Vettel can try and use the DRS to come back at him, but I think Bottas has just got a little bit in hand now. That's not going to phase him. But looking at the pack now, unfortunately there's nothing really for me to actually focus on in terms of my own driving, because we're just trying to recover in this Grand Prix as we're looking at the Aston Martin and the Ford cars having a little bit of a ding-dong scrap here now. As, oh, that was Gasly then. Gasly locked up into turn 1. That cost him a position to Sergio Perez then. So Perez says, thank you very much, I'll have that one. And drives along with it. Lando Norris now had an awful qualifying session. Now picking up his pace here and attacking Hamilton, who's dropping backwards a lot. I wonder if Lewis Hamilton took a bit of front wing damage, maybe from me, because on the end of the first lap, I was trailing with no front wing, and I don't know if Hamilton hit my car or not. Failing that, he's just gone ahead and got some mechanical issues in there, but here is Lewis Hamilton now, under pressure from the man that caused the chaos at turn 1, Charles Leclerc, who goes to the outside line now, and as you can see here, Leclerc is going to get the move done on Lewis Hamilton. It's going to be a little bit tight here between the two drivers. Hamilton will try and fight it off here, but on the exit now of turn 3 here, this should be Charles Leclerc's, but it's not. Hamilton really gives him a good old scrap. DRS going to be enabled for both drivers now as they go down in towards turn 4. Hamilton though breaks later up against Charles Leclerc. Leclerc has to go to the inside line now. Will he make this one stick? Hamilton will pin him to the apex, get a better launch off the exit. He'll do the same again thing here. Leclerc will get alongside, but on the exit, Lewis Hamilton stays in front, and despite whatever issues that's going on in the back of that Mercedes, Hamilton is not letting Leclerc through without a proper fight. Leclerc really has to go for it if he wants to try and find himself further up the order, but for now, Hamilton holds on in that scrap. As you can see, we're still riding on board with the pair of them as Norris up ahead is now passing Pierre Gasly. He'll also pass the Esteban Ocon in the process here as Ocon tries to cover off Lando Norris. That doesn't work. Tries to cover off Gasly. That doesn't work. He unfortunately is going to get passed by the pair of them here. Gasly will have a little bit of a scrap on his hands though, as Leclerc in the background has now got in front of Lewis Hamilton. Finally, it took a little bit longer than he would have wanted, but eventually he got the move done. As you can see here, Gasly getting move done is going to get one done on Ocon. Leclerc now will be next to scrap with Esteban Ocon. Onto lap 8 of the Grand Prix now, though, and we've caught up to some cars, and we can get ourselves back in the fight now in this Mexican Grand Prix. Still in P18, though, but we've caught up to the back of Mason Woods here in the Red Bull, and we're going to try and attack him now. And then we've got one of the Porsche cars up ahead. Wood tries to squeeze us off there, funnily enough, so Wood really did actually want to defend the position there, but we're not going to let that one happen, and we're through. Up into 17th place now. That's our first overtake of the race, and we've got a yellow flag, though, for somebody. That's in the background. That's the Jaguar car. That's Sam. He's out of this Grand Prix. One of the title contenders is out of the Mexican Grand Prix. It's called out a virtual safety car, but Sam's race is run and done. He was taken out by Leclerc on the first lap with myself and Reese, and now his engine has completely failed here in this Mexican Grand Prix. But as the virtual safety car ends, back at the front, here comes Daniel Ricciardo to attack George Russell. He's been closing in on the Audi driver. Ricciardo now is going to go to the outside, the inside line, sorry, in for turn 1. This is going to be a crucial move here for Ricciardo. He takes the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix. The man that recently, I think, overtook Sam in the top of the Drivers' Championship. Sam's out of this Grand Prix now. Ricciardo leads the race. For us, though, lap 10 of this race now. We're up into 16th place in this Grand Prix, getting very close to the back of Pascal Wehrlein in the Porsche car as we now go towards the outside line, towards the stadium section here, fly around the outside. Much more speed, much more power, and crucially, we've got fresh medium compact tyres on. Those drivers are all on their used soft tyres, so they'll be struggling for grip, unlike us. But I say that, whoa, that was a bit of a back-end tank slapper there. I said that they were losing grip. Should probably focus on my own grip here, because we just nearly went into the pits then with all of that. That would have been really embarrassing for us. But we're having to cover off Pascal Wehrlein just because, well, I pooped myself a little bit, but it's absolutely fine as we now go through onto lap 12 of the Grand Prix. We're up into 8th place now in this Grand Prix, making some fantastic progress here as we've caught up to the back of Pierre Gasly, I believe this is now, in the Ford. That is correct. It is Gasly up ahead, and it's Ferrari versus Ford, and we're going to go down the inside of Gasly here. A little bit of contact actually made between the pair of us, but eventually we're through on Gasly, and we're up now to 7th place in this Grand Prix. Next at the road, I believe, is Valtteri Bottas in the Renault, and that is correct. It is Bottas ahead, so we'll try and catch up to him. But now we're going to look at my teammate and see how he's getting along. He's actually quite close to us behind here, and he's attacking the Red Bull car of Verstappen now, and he gets through on Max Verstappen. Nice overtake there from Mr. Carlos Sainz, and he'll be looking to try and close that gap down to me as his fresh soft compound tyres get to work, and my warm medium compound tyres, well, just get more and more worn, really. And that was the case. Lap 16 of this race, we've done 16 laps on these medium compound tyres. Very satisfied with the stint. Now it's time to box and get a brand new set of soft compound tyres on, and we're going to basically convert now to do medium, soft, soft. So the strategy at the start of the race was soft, soft, medium. Pretty much what I've done is just flipped it in reverse because of the unorthodox pit stop. We can still use the tyres that we used when we got hit into turn 1 because they had, like, no wear on them, so it's absolutely fine to use them. They won't really cause any problems for us. It just means now that we flip things around, but crucially, we'll have now 2 stints where we'll be super fast on our soft compact tyres. We've got a little bit of a scrap going on up ahead here, and it's going to be Reese then who's going to try and get past Lewis Hamilton in towards turns 1, 2, and 3, and Hamilton will hold this one because he'll have the outside line, which is a much better line to use in these fast cars, but Reese then is eventually going to get that DRS and just fly on through, and he is now further ahead in this grid. I'm not actually sure what position. Oh, here we go, 16th place. So that was the battle for P14 there in this Grand Prix. Hamilton is just having an absolutely horrid time so far in this race. I really don't know what's going on with him. He might have some light front wing damage that's not visible on the car, because like I said, he was very close to the back of me on the first lap, or he might just have a mechanical problem that I just didn't pick up from Jeff. So one or the other, but eventually though, we're going to pass Lewis Hamilton here with ease now, using the DRS here to our advantage, braking nice and late in towards the stadium section. That DRS zone proving very effective actually in this Grand Prix, which is quite weird. It never really does, but for me, I'm actually liking that DRS zone being there as we now close up to the back of Reese. Let's see if we can try and get past Reese on the start-finish straight. Failing that, we can obviously try and attack him in towards the second DRS zone, which is absolutely fine. As you can see, we've got the DRS going. ERS is also flying as well. Unfortunately, you can see that we're just not quite there in a straight line, so I actually just turn everything down. I'm going to just get very close to... Whoa, that was unexpected. I didn't think I did that, but that's a super move then down the inside of Reese, and we're now up into 14th place in this Grand Prix. A very late move then, a super late dive bomb there, and very close to contact, and that would have broken my front wing and paid to any form of points in this Grand Prix, but crucially, we didn't. And now on the soft compound tyres, we can really get motoring. On board with Noah James here now, who's onto the back of Nick De Vries and the Aston Martin. Noah now going towards the inside line. Let's see what Noah can do, though, as he breaks hard in towards turn 1. Nick De Vries has got the preferred line, though, through T's 1, 2, and 3. So let's see if he can make it stick. But crucially, Noah actually manages to get in front there. So that's quite impressive, as we've caught up to the back of Esteban Ocon and one of the Aston Martins. I think it's Sergio Perez, but it could well be Nick De Vries. I think it is actually, though, Sergio Perez, but we're going to try and see if we can find a way through now on the Aston as we now go through on the exit of the last corner here, flying down. It's actually Nick De Vries that we've caught up to the back to. Oh, there we go, because there's Noah in front. So Ocon has found his way past De Vries. Now we're trying to find our way past. We're actually having a bit of a tough time here because we've both got the DRS open, but crucially De Vries has got slipstream on Ocon, but unfortunately that's not enough on my fresh soft compound tyres. I'm already on the back of Ocon now, so the grip that we've got is absolutely incredible now, as we get a beautiful helicopter cam here of us now going around the outside of Ocon here. He actually brakes a little bit later than what I do, but I'm able to just swoop the car around. You can just see the grip that we've got at this stage. It's absolutely amazing, and the fact that I get to box for another set of soft tyres later on in this race just makes me happy inside. And now we're going to press on to the back of Noah James, try and catch him as quick as we possibly can. But onto lap 22 of the Grand Prix, Sebastian Vettel has just made his last stop of the race onto the medium compound tyres. He's just rejoined in the middle of our scrap between myself and Noah James. Wasn't really on the back of Noah too hardly, but we're now going to try and see if we can attack Vettel here. We've got the DRS now, and we're going to go to the outside line here, and around the outside, sorry, Vettel locks up, but we can just swoop through past Sebastian. I couldn't take the full speed the second part of the corner there because I would have gone into the back of Noah now. Vettel then getting very close to the back of us there, but we get in front of him. Crucially, he is on a fresh set of medium compound tyres, but at this stage of the race, my soft compound tyres are still in brilliant nick. I won't be stopping until around about lap 35, I'd say. So not 35, what am I about? 25. So I've still got quite a few laps left in these tyres, and apart from that mistake there, which is going to allow Vettel to come at us now towards the stadium section, we'll cover it off though. Bar that, we've got plenty of grip. I wasn't having any problems at all here, as Noah now is boxing, so he's going on to the medium compound tyres. My teammate is also in as well. Everyone's in for their last stops now in this Grand Prix, and we can see them all now fighting their way through. This is Lando Norris attacking Verstappen now. Unfortunately, that BMW is just not very strong, or BMW power unit is not very good, and unfortunately that is causing Red Bull some problems here. And as you can see now, it is going to be a simple overtake for Norris. He is through, and Verstappen unfortunately has nothing to fight with against that now as we go through with Lando. It's got a yellow flag though, or green flag, sorry, that just popped up then. Not sure what happened there, but as you can see now, we're back on board here with Max Verstappen, and he's about to be passed again. It's got the Porsche car of Nico Hülkenberg behind him. Unfortunately, with that BMW power unit being the worst on the grid, it really just hampers Red Bull, because they've got a decent package, they just don't have a good power unit. And this time around, it's not a case of their power unit being, you know, pretty bad, and then their, you know, their package is just, you know, superior in every way. It's a case of Red Bull don't have the greatest package. It's all right, but with a very weak PU, it just means nothing. But we've got a yellow flag now that's on the back straight, or on the run down towards turns 4, and I'm not sure who that is actually. We're going to replay now. Oh no, it's our teammate Carlos Sainz that's out of the Grand Prix. Sainz, who was running quite nicely in the points actually. I think he was running in about 6th place. Is going to have to pull over with a mechanical failure. That's heartbreak for Sainz. It's been such a rough year for Carlos Sainz. He's not been, we've not had a great Ferrari car. I've had a lot of luck with my results when the Ferrari has been underperforming. I mean, a side note, obviously the AIs are just not as strong anyway. But overall for Sainz, like, the car's just started to pick up in momentum and performance, and he's been putting that in. You know, he got his points in the last race in Canada, which was a great result for him, and today he would have probably got the same finish of like P6 or maybe even a P5, but unfortunately it's not to be. So Sainz then is out of this Mexican Grand Prix, and that's disastrous. But for us though, we carry on. We're on a fresh set of soft compound tyres now. We have pitted for the last time on lap 27, and we're in 9th place, so it's pretty much now just going hell to the leather. Let's see where we end up finishing. So let's get on with it then. First up is going to be Verstappen in the Red Bull. Let's see how long it takes for us to pass him. Probably not that long, considering the car is slow, and well, I've got absolute pace in this machine now as we go towards the outside line here of Verstappen, and we get past him quite comfortably. Next up is going to be Nico Hulkenberg in the Porsche car. Then we've got, I think it's Perez in the Aston Martin, and then we've got Lando Norris in the Jaguar. These guys are quite easy for us to attack. It's about how far away then the likes of Vettel and Ocon are, not Ocon, sorry, Bottas, but it's quite clear that Vettel is going to be quite far ahead. So whether we can really pump in the laps and get onto the back of them, a full pit stop's advantage to close is not that difficult in these cars, especially if you're on a fresh set of tyres, because the performance difference is so big because of these cars and the way that they work with the grip that they've got. It's possible that we can gain a full pit stops advantage in the span of like 7 laps or something like that as we're going down the inside of Hulkenberg here, and he makes that one kind of difficult for us, but we swoop around the outside. That's become one of my another one of my favourite overtaking spots. I don't think I've made a single overtake bar Reese on the start-finish straight, the longest straight where you can get an overtake done. I'm doing it in the unorthodox location. I'm doing it in the other DRS zones here, so I go a little bit wide, trying to attack Sergio Perez, getting caught out by the dirty air, but the DRS now in effect here. And we're just going to do, well, we're just going to swoop around the outside, actually, albeit. So thanks for that, Sergio. Nice knowing you. We're now going to go and try and chase after Mr. Lando Norris in the Jaguar car. Also, though, the crucial thing here is as well, we can also try and go for the fastest lap, which would be kind of crucial for us. We're currently on a 108, I think it is. A 108.0, there we go. We actually just set the fastest lap there as we caught up to the back of Lando Norris now, lap 32 of this Grand Prix. This is going to be for 5th place now in this Mexican Grand Prix, which overall is not a bad position to be in after where we were at the end of the first lap. We open up the DRS now here, using the ERS mixture to our advantage. Lando is a little bit further ahead, but we can just brake nice and late down the inside, make that move stick on Lando, and we are through up now into 5th place in this Mexican Grand Prix. Now the chase is on against Ocon and Vettel, but unfortunately onto the final lap of the Grand Prix here, they were just a bit too far ahead for me to actually get in front of. But as you can see now, we're catching up to the back of them. Daniel Ricciardo, though, has just won his 3rd race in a row for McLaren. He is on an absolute ball of a run so far. It's going to be George Russell that will finish in 2nd, Vettel 3rd, Bottas in 4th. We've come across the line to recover in P5 after this Grand Prix. There is Daniel Ricciardo, as you can see, celebrating once again because he has done it again. For the 3rd race in a row, it is victory for Daniel Ricciardo, and George Russell finishes in 2nd place for Audi. That's his best result of the season so far. He was leading, but Ricciardo ultimately had the pace. Sebastian Vettel gets his 1st podium for Mercedes-Benz in 3rd place. Valtteri Bottas with his best finish, I think, so far for Renault. No, I might have got a podium actually last season, but it's Renault's best finish this year. We got close in P5 to trying to get that podium. It wasn't to be. We finish in P5 and we get the fastest lap of 108.093, which is also critical. Lando Norris recovers from last on the grid to P6, so credit where it's due for Lando Norris. He had a great race. Hulkenberg, 7th for Porsche. That's an awesome result for him. Verstappen gets some points on the board in 8th place. Sergio Perez gets Aston Martin's 1st points in P9. That's a great drive from Sergio Perez, and Charles Leclerc gets P10 in the end after causing that collision. He picks up a solitary point. Looking at the second half of the table now, this is where it gets kind of strange seeing all these drivers down here, but Reese only managed to recover to P11 in the end. It wasn't to be for him. He went ahead and did the alternate strategy, which sort of doesn't work. I think he went and did soft, medium, and basically did the same strategy again. Not really sure, but it's only 11th for him. Noah James finishes in 12th for Ford, ahead of Esteban Ocon and Nick De Vries. Hamilton 15th, and then it's Gasly in 16th. Pascal Wehrlein in 17th place, ahead of Mason Woods, and then Carlos Sainz and Sam with the 2 drivers to DNF from today's Grand Prix. Looking at the Drivers' Championship now, and you'll see that Daniel Ricciardo leads the Formula 1 World Drivers' Championship. He is on 99 points now, ahead of Sam, who's on 83 points. I believe that has actually changed now. So Ricciardo is in front. Myself in the Ferrari is in 3rd place on 80 points. Reese then is 4th in the Drivers' Championship on 71 points. Charles Leclerc is 5th with 66 points, and then it's Lando Norris on 59 points. George Russell moves to 42 points now. The 2 Mercedes cars of Vettel and Hamilton are on 28 and 26 points. Vettel getting in front of Hamilton thanks to Vettel's podium, and Bottas moves into the top 10 of the championship. He is on 17 points for Renault. The next event is going to be the Formula 1 Vietnam Grand Prix. Looking at the Constructors' Championship, then McLaren lead the championship on 170 points ahead of Jaguar, who are on 142 points. Audi are on 108 points, so they're closing the gap slightly to Jaguar after this event. Ferrari, we're on 89 points. It could have been more if Sainz had not had the mechanical problem, but it is what it is. Mercedes are on 54 points now. Renault have gone in front of Red Bull and also Ford, I believe. They have done, yeah. So Renault are now up into 6th in the championship on 17 points. Red Bull dropped 7th with 14 points. Ford are on 9 points. Porsche picked up their first points of the season. They're on 6 points. And Aston Martin also picked up their first points of the season. They're on 2 points, meaning all of the constructors have now already scored points this season. But that is the Mexican Grand Prix. Let's go to the post-race notebook and get some reaction from the drivers, and most predominantly, that first lap incident. So here we are then for the post-race notebook, and it was Ricciardo that made it 3 race wins in a row for McLaren, winning the Mexican Grand Prix as he fended off George Russell, and after his teammate Charles Leclerc wiped out Tom, Rees and Sam at the first corner, causing a crash, eventually leading to Tom recovering to P5, with Rees only managing to get back up to P11, and then Sam DNFing from the Grand Prix thanks to an engine failure. Now the stewards have once again come under some criticism from Tom after no penalty was awarded to Charles Leclerc for his incident in Turn 1. At the previous rounds at the Canadian Grand Prix, Tom was taken out by Sebastian Vettel after Tom made a defensive move around the outside of Sebastian Vettel into the chicane before the hairpin. He gave Vettel plenty of room, but Vettel still took him out, in which Vettel received no penalty. Here at the Mexican Grand Prix, Leclerc made a move which wiped out 3 competitors and no penalty was awarded. Tom, Rees and Sam have all heavily criticised Charles Leclerc for his lack of awareness and ambition, stating that he tried to win the race in the first corner instead of the 36 laps that were available. So there's a lot of pressure and criticism on the stewards and Leclerc, but can Leclerc get it right next time around, or is this the start of a downwards trend that Leclerc could never recover from? We'll see you guys next time for the Vietnam Grand Prix and see if Leclerc can bounce back.